to JP's Budget Collecting and another episode of the Indie Show. And tonight I'm kicking off my read of Fear Agent, another Rick Remender story. And if we're doing Remender, I got my boys, the bearded comic bro Greg.
What's up, buddy?
The unruly Simeon with me as we're talking more Remender. We've done, you got the thumbs up on your phone. So, did you see the balloons, Unruly?
What is that about?
Because you did a thumbs up, and so the camera on your phone gave the balloons.
It's brand new, and I'm not happy with it.
It's okay. It's okay. I've done that too when I've been on the stream on my phone. So yeah, we're talking Rick Remender. We've done Deadly Class. We've done Black Science. We're now doing Fear Agent. This is Unruly. Am I wrong to say this is your favorite Remender story? You are the one that has read this before.
You wouldn't be wrong at all, and rereading it just helped confirm that, man. I love how it's just non-stop.
Yeah. So, Greg, Unruly's read this before. You were reading this for the first time. I guess I should shout out the chat real quick. We had GT Key in here early. He's back. We got Dan's Hobby Corner. What's going on? Thank you guys for joining us. So, Greg, we just came off of Remender Sci-Fi, and now we're doing Remender Sci-Fi. Same thing, right? This is completely like exactly the same kind of story.
I mean, at least we don't have like a down and out main protagonist hero here that it's hard to love right off the bat, because that would be so similar if that happened here. But
I think that's the only thing that's kind of similar.
It really is.
Oh.
But I think when it started, I did kind of coming off of just reading Black Science. I was like, "Uh-oh, are we gonna do this again?" And then not to get too ahead, but then they do like the time jump right like in the second issue, and I was like, "Oh man!" I was like, "Remender, I'm here for the ride," but this is getting too close to what I read, and then it completely went a different route.
Yeah, it's a completely different kind of story. I think for me, like just general impressions before we dive into the details of these first 10 issues, which we did the first 10 issues, which is basically the first trade, if you get it, first 2 story arcs, Reignition and My War, for anybody that's familiar with the story and what we read. Like, the only thing I could think as I was going through this is like old school Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon. Like, you get like each episode, like it's a continuing story, but like at the break of everything, it's like, and join us next week. But next week would be almost a completely different adventure. Like they were on a different planet. They were dealing with different things. It would jump you to something else you weren't expecting. What did you think of the way he sets this up, Greg? In terms of like the way he paces the story, and we jump around, and it's like that episodic adventure kind of thing going on here.
Yeah, and I mean you're spot on with like the harking back to the Flash Gordon and the Buck, reading Mad Cave's doing the new Flash Gordon right now, and they're kind of just like nonstop space adventure. And like Unruly said at the beginning, like this doesn't slow down. Like I feel like, and who knows, there's a lot of comic to read still, but usually in a trade at this point, there's one issue where Remender completely pumps the brakes, slows everything down, and you go, okay, yes, that worked. I needed that. I don't feel like this story needed that in this. No. Like, were those moments with Deadly Class, those moments with Black Science, where it kind of just lets you breathe. Because this was nonstop action, but it didn't feel over the top, which is crazy because there was a lot of over the top action.
Yeah, for sure. Unruly, is this what you love about? I mean, is this kind of why you love this series? The way the setup, the episodic kind of, they find themselves on a new planet, the new villain, a new thing every episode. It kind of takes a different turn, goes a different direction.
Have you ever watched an actual serialized drama of like Buck Rogers, for instance?
A long time ago, but I've watched some when I was a kid. I remember watching some of that kind of stuff.
The creature feature when I was a kid in Louisiana, every Saturday night they'd show. It was just like going to a movie in the 50s. they would show a cartoon and then 2 or 3 serials and then the main feature. And this is exactly what those old serials were like. It was just plateau, and leave you hanging till next episode.
Yeah.
I really love that about this. It's just, it never stops. And you thought out of the frying pan into the fire. Oh no, my friend, we're going to the center of the freaking earth, maybe literally.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is it's popcorn. It's like, there's more depth to it than here. It's not, but it's just like, oh, this is great. You're just like, it's like that popcorn adventure kind of thing that we're talking about, like going to the movies. You're getting a fun, fast-paced show, and it's going. And I do think let's dig into, as we get into this, we get mostly the Tony Moore art here.
So good,
and it's so good and so perfect for what we're doing. Like, I mean, it opens and we get like, the whole opening is we get this like outer space trucker and, and he's landing on a space station and he gets eaten by a monster like 2 pages in. And yeah, I mean, and like Tony Moore does like over the top explosions and violence. And it's just, yeah, it is a popcorn adventure with some depth. And yeah, the Tony Moore art just like selling this universe and stuff. What did you think of the art here, Unruly, and Tony Moore? And I know eventually we get some Jerome Opina and stuff in here too, but what did you think of that?
I would like to ask y'all a serious question. Don't you wish he'd have drawn Black Science? And then we would be able to tell who was who more easily than we did in some instances.
I will say though, I guess that would probably been Opena. There was a scene where I thought it was our main protagonist and it was someone else, and I had to read back and forth. So it was in the flashback in the bathroom. I thought it was. I was like, wait a second. Yes, and no. I would have liked to have been able to tell the characters more apart, like in Black Science, but I do feel like that artwork just was that Matteo Scalera.
Yeah,
I think it really fit for the story, the over the top story that it needed for Black Science.
I agree with Greg. Like, I do think from Tony Moore's standpoint, yes, for the most part, the people are much like the women in Black Science sometimes are hard to tell apart for absolute certain. But I will say, like, the way he does the background in outer space, I think fits for the tone of that story better than this does. Whereas this is perfect for me for this kind of adventure. This is a much more of a, adventure comic than that is. And I think it fits really, really well. Because I mean, even like the way he does do faces and our main guy here, just, even when he's in his panels and stuff, like it's got a little more of that cartoony taste to it that just works. It just works really well for this particular style of adventure, at least for me.
No, now with all that being said, if you would have told me Tony Moore was going to be on Black Science, I would have been like, okay, like I'm not going to say no to his artwork.
Yeah, for sure. Like it much more than the song. I think you probably would, Gore. I think so.
Yeah, you would.
So what do we think of our hero here? You talked about it a little bit at the front, Greg. Our Heath Houston is our hero here, our fear agent. And he basically, as we meet him, he's working as kind of a mercenary in outer space. He's been away from Earth for 10 years as we dig into the story. And he's just like, fighting aliens and gun for hire kind of thing in outer space. What did you think of our introduction here to our hero, Greg?
I liked it. I kind of gave a grief of like he's Black Science-y, but he really isn't as much, right? Like he's also like he gets himself out of situations that he puts himself into. So I think like even if it's a lot less where I feel like in Black Science, the main protagonist, if he got out of a situation, it was more like Indiana Jones, like falling into, getting out of it. Where this one, like Heath is doing stuff to, like that seems crazy to us, the reader, but like in his mind, it comes off as very strategic of what he's going to do to a degree.
Yeah.
And I think it really works from that standpoint of it's not as like science-y vibes of like what's going on here. It is you don't feel lost because they're not trying to over explain stuff here. He's just fighting some bad monster aliens right now.
Yeah.
And a big giant Krang-like brain, and we don't know why, and it's okay because it's not like there's not this over exposition of like telling what is like the science behind what's happening and stuff like that.
No, it's like, oh, you're diving in. It's just a space adventure, and this guy's a gun for hire, sent to like take these, working for money to try to like take out monsters. I mean, he talks about like, oh, you could, if they're class C or below or whatever, depending on how smart the monsters are, you could just kill them, and and it goes through this. What about you, Unruly? What do you think of our hero here? His introduction of Heath Huston.
Love him, man. All right, not so much the badassery, but I can totally identify with his just being a cynical drunk that loves to quote Mark Twain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
and remember, all right, I don't want any spoilers, but later on when he's like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to try out the new liver.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get there. But I mean, it's funny, like he's very much a little bit of, he's more Han Solo than Indiana Jones or whatever.
Right.
Like this is, he's got a spaceship that he talks to that's like giving him crap for trying to do these jobs while he's drunk, and he's like, the more I drink, the better I am. And it's just,
there was a series. What was from Ahoy Comics, Stuart Moore, and that was a whole premise of and it was a spaceman like this, and he was a horrible shot unless he was drunk, and like that was I can't think of it, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, and I mean he's clearly like skilled, but he's also a bit of an F up, like in several of these situations in terms of and kind of stumbling his way to find the right solution. But so we meet our hero, and he's basically doing a job trying to take out these primitives that come to find out are working for this giant brain thing. He ends up destroying them and all the equipment that he was supposed to be getting back from them that they've been stealing, and as a result, doesn't get paid. I mean, he basically, that's our introduction to him. Is he's down on his luck. He's a bit of an F up, but like clearly you see he has ability, but this is our whole kind of introduction to him that kicks us off this whole first issue. I mean, sets the tone for the book. There's no real explanation of what's going on. Like you just dive in with the adventure. What did you think just of the tone here as we're moving through this, Greg? I know we talked about it a little bit, but just of like how we set up from the beginning that this is just going to be like shit's happening, just get on for the ride.
Yeah. It's always one of those, I wonder how I would feel about it if I was reading in single issues, right? Because if I was doing like a monthly review show and I was reviewing issue 1, I'd be like, oh, it was a lot happened, but nothing happened because I don't know what's going on, right? Like,
yes.
And so it'd be very hard to read now, like, because I do feel like even as fast paced as this was, it was a slow build to get to the premise of where we're expanding with the story and where we're going. And I think Rick Remender is a master of that craft of giving you just enough that you want to keep reading, but not enough where it has to feel like he has to explain the whole universe in the first issue. I mean, he barely explains the whole universe in the first arc.
Yeah.
And so I feel like because I could sit and read this all in one sitting or 2 sittings, basically, I was able to consume it a lot and I enjoyed it. But I would be like, Remender obviously will get gets a whole arc out of me no matter what these days if I'm picking up in single issues. But
Yeah.
I do feel like it'd be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, because I do wonder about like picking up this first issue and not having more, because the first issue you get the trucker going to the space station, getting eaten by the monster, and you get him fighting these gorilla men in a brain and blowing everything up, and that's the end of the first issue.
Right.
Like, you don't even get his, like, you don't know who he's been talking to through his little comm, that it's just the computer on a spaceship. You don't realize that he was, like, not going to get paid, and that he's, like, basically poor, and, like, do we have enough gas to get somewhere to the next place to go? And so, yeah, none of that happens till after the first issue, but we see him basically, like, okay, he doesn't get paid for this job. He's trying to get to someplace to get some more fuel, the next closest place he can get. And he gets basically where he's already headed, like, hey, we need you to check this out. And he goes to the space station. And this is sort of the overarching narrative, but not really. I mean, it is, but as he gets there, and there's these things called feeders that basically ate everybody in the station, and he realizes what's going on and basically just tries to flee. He's like, okay, I can't deal with these things. And in that, we meet our other main character, I guess, of this book. We meet Mara. What did you think of Mara, who's, like him, ends up hiding from these monsters in the water supply? What did you think of Mara the first time you met her here, Unruly?
Well, he got lucky to meet her. Remember, it's one of these tubes goes to the water source, one goes to sewage. Roll the dice.
Yeah, he just dives in, yes.
I can appreciate that as a plumber. I like Mara so far, but she's so, she's very standoffish at first.
Yes.
Or very much, oh my God, I can't even pin down a word to describe her. She's sort of like she's enjoyable, she's fun to look at, but she's not going to take any of his crap on the surface.
Well, yeah, she's clearly has some sort of like science-y, helped run the station kind of position, or appears to be like very much a cerebral, like, think through a problem, do things like this. And Heath is just like, hey, we're going. And then she's immediately like, okay, I don't like you. Like, don't like, you're my way out of here, but you're not really the kind of person that I want to have to deal with, because he's a fly by the seat of his pants. Let's go. Bearder, what do you think of our introduction to Mara here?
I mean, to go with your Han Solo, analogy, she kind of has the chops of like a Princess Leia, of like sticking up to Hans in the first couple, movies, and as then she kind of explores her character of who she is more. And I think that's what really works for me, is their dynamic of we get to know who Heath is right off the bat, and he, I think like the first thing Mara says to him to a degree is like, get a good look. Like, obviously he's taking her in and staring at her, and she just is very snippy of like, what are you going to look at, Flyboy? And I appreciated that, because that's the dynamic that I'm like, okay, I like their banter. I like this kind of standoffishness. Like, they need each other, to make things happen. But I also think it just works really well that it's an engaging, character.
Yeah, I mean, we get the whole thing, like, they find each other, and he's like, hey, is your, like, within like 2 pages, he's like, hey, is your spacesuit good for a spacewalk? And she's like, yeah, why? And then he just like throws a grenade and jettisons them out into space so that they can get back to his ship. And without any warning, he just does it. Like, she's like, I think so, why? And then immediately like blows a hole in the space station, and she's just like, are you out of your mind? Or are you just, like, so she's clearly not the kind of person that, or he's clearly not the kind of person that she really wants to deal with. But they realize that these monsters are headed to Earth. So they try to race to Earth. So this is just kind of like the first issue is setting the tone for the whole series. The first issue is his adventure fighting these gorilla men and the brain, and then the second issue is he gets sent to the space station, he fights the feeders, and then he finds Mara. And then the third issue is they escape and realize they're going to Earth, but they get sucked through a time portal because of their fuel that they got, that it was actually a trap for them. So at this point, we kind of know what this is in terms of this is just going to be, like we talked about at the beginning. What did you think about, you commented on it a little bit right off the bat, like, oh, we're going to do time travel, Greg. What did you think about that?
Again, if I was reading this in single issues, I feel like I would have gotten upset. The first kind of 4 issues, I was kind of like, I think I like this. And then after, like, from 5 on, I'm like, okay, I really like this.
Yeah.
But again, even as different as it was from Black Science, I was like, oh, we're doing another space, another time travel. And I was a little hesitant at first. So again, it's a more of a plot device for the story for where it needs to go. It's not like this. They're jumping like every single arc is in Black Science, and will they make it in time before the jump? Like this was a necessary device, and it just is one of those. It's like I read Black Science last Rick Remender book, so that's why it's fresh like that.
Yeah. And really, what do you think about that we're doing time travel here when you first read it?
Bring it on. The more, the merrier.
I mean, like, I really don't know. Like, I've been sitting here and I'm trying to think of like how to really talk about this as we go through this, but because it does feel like in many ways each issue is its own little adventure. Like, each issue we get something a little different. In issue 3, we end up doing time travel as we're trying to race these people, these monsters to Earth. Well, we end up shunted back in time, and we land on this planet where we're fighting robots, and we don't know what's going on, and then we get saved by these other kind of like very different but similar kind of like ape-like men, or well, at the end we think they're trying to kill us also. So as we go through this, and then we find out who they are, and that they're actually the reason he left, like the attack on Earth that caused him to leave Earth and everything else, that these robots are actually going to be responsible for that in the future. And, it's just every issue is like, oh, we're going down this road now. Oh, we're going down this road now.
But Remender just keeps upping the freaking ante,
Yeah.
It just gets more and more danger.
Yes. So we see, like, basically, they arrive on this, they go back in time, they arrive on this planet, they end up fighting a bunch of robots. They get, it appears, potentially captured by, more ape men. And through this, we start getting into, we find out that these guys, we find out their history, that they had basically, one of them had figured out a way to live forever by downloading their brain into robots. And basically there was a split between the haves and the have-nots, and about whether or not this was a good idea. And these robots were actually responsible for destruction of a big part of Earth and the death of his family. What did you think of, like, as we're getting this backstory, that we're immediately jumping into his history and the people responsible for him being the way he is, Greg?
Excuse me. I think this is where I really like where it started to kind of click for me, because it did start to feel like a story of there's more to it. There's more at stake here.
Yeah.
And, there's little simple things that they don't, Rick Remender doesn't over explain something here. Like the whole, like, oh, here's a device that will let you interpret us. Just put on your, nobody's like, oh, how do they communicate with all these different aliens? They're just like, here's a device, just plop it on, and they have this communication. I'm like, that's great. And now anytime I read it, it's just like putting up a box there that says like translated from Spanish, like, so that's just where it's like a really cool little device that Remender does there, that keeps you right in. It's not this over, exaggerated story of like, well, this is why and this happens. But it started to get to feel like, okay, you're starting to see like that Heath has some issues in his past. We don't know what it is at this point.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see like the history of these people. And then this issue, and I think the next issue is then when I start to do some flip-flopping back and forth, going like, oh, okay, so these issues are connected. And it's, again, it's just, I think that's where I appreciate Remender right here, because I think it is masterful storytelling of give you a little bit. And then I actually did. I went back and kind of glanced over the first issue after reading, I think, issue 4, 5, 6 or something, and go, okay, this makes sense now a little bit more. Yeah. And like, it wasn't a bad, like, it didn't detract from it at the beginning, but I appreciated it more.
Yeah, this is where we start to realize that, yes, these are, I mean, he's very much giving us episodic adventures, right, in each issue, and yet he's continuing a through line. He's doing a good job of putting a through line that works, even though he's telling these episodic kind of adventures. What about you, Unruly? What did you think of, like, starting to immediately dig into Heath's past and, like, he gets a chance to, fix his history is what he thinks here right off the bat.
Yeah, dude, y'all sum this stuff up way better than I can. I'm but a Mongo only pawn in Game of Life.
Badges, we don't need no stinking badges.
I'm listening to y'all and I'm flipping through the pages, and these sound effects and they're sprinkled throughout, and they're great. And I'm catching little details I missed. Yeah. Like when he goes to corner Ket, the head robot.
Yes.
How he shoots him, but it's a decoy. The brain escapes to the giant robot, which then promptly stomps the life out of him, literally.
Yeah.
And then that's the end of Reignition, and we're into My War.
Yeah.
With basically him dying.
Yeah, so
but
he tries to help Go ahead.
He's got no quit in him at any point, ever. No. And that's what I like about him.
Yeah, he does. Like, he's an interesting case because he often, because we're getting, I mean, the story's being told from his perspective for the most part. And we get his inner dialogue at times. And it's always like, oh, this sucks. I'm going to die. I don't know how to get it. But he doesn't quit. Like, it's just, he's not exactly Mr. Positive, but he's not going to give up. And so, yeah, we see this. He tries to help these people on this planet defeat the robots because he knows that they're going to destroy his family in the future. They fail because they're betrayed. He gets thrown basically into the ocean for some reason. Not sure exactly why. That happens. And actually not even he digs down to the ocean, thinks he's going to die, and then we see the brains that he blew up in issue 1. And they're like saving his life. And this is where we get the whole thing that you talked about earlier, like the line where he talks about, oh, I got a new liver, because they end up cloning him in order to to save him because his body's not, and download his brain into a new body. What did you think of this plot twist, Greg? As we get he's dead and now he's a clone.
I liked it because originally I was like, great. We got another Heath, just like we did Black Science, of how many of grants are we getting here? But as I kind of sat with the issue as I was reading, I'm like, nope, this works because the previous 4 issues set the stage of the whole brain transplant into other things. That's the whole plot of the others. So this isn't just out in thin air. It's slowly adapted that. Then it's no, this works for what we're talking about, for that way they can save Heath. And so it's it's still him, just in a different body. And I was like, okay, I'm okay with that, because I don't need to worry about like which version of Heath this is. Like it's still Heath. He just has a different body. And I appreciated that once. I was like, again, well-developed storytelling right there that allows you to have those moments.
No. What about you, Unruly? What did you think when he got cloned here?
I loved it. And he's being questioned by the big brain, and he says, and the whys and what fors better left for another time. He's always saying that.
Yeah.
I'll explain it later.
Let's just go. Yeah. And the brain's like, wait, you killed me in the future. Like, like, how does that happen? And why am I like not, but basically ends up using it to convince the brains to help them go back. They go back and fight the robots. They win, but Heath and Mara end up sort of losing, even though the robots are defeated. Mara ends up getting killed, it appears. And he ends up making a time jump without her because he was trying to like make the ship go to get back to their time.
Mm-hmm.
And
if he had let go of the thing, it would have blown up.
And so he ends up not being able to save her. And he comes to the future, and they won. The robots were defeated, but there's like multiple clones of him and Mara on this planet now, like that they've been cloned through the future. And then as he's standing there, the planet gets wiped out, and he gets arrested for messing with time. The Time Variance Authority basically shows up. What did you think about this, Unruly? That he screwed up time, so he ended up getting arrested.
It just gets more and more convoluted. And remember, all right, so if he's back in the future, then he doesn't know what's changed, what hadn't. But he's not in like, these people are, they're calling it the Prime Universe and all that happy crap. Oh, damn it. I'm sorry, all my dang comicsology just skipped all the way to the damn end.
Oh, you're okay. Yeah, you're okay.
It's just because of the nonstop action of the narrative, and because the dialogue is solid, and I like the way he ruminates to himself. Well, my grandpappy or my daddy always, and Samuel Clemens, he's got a freaking
he's always
Mark
got the
Twain
little
quote for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was like it was written for me, the badder version of myself that didn't quit drinking,
Yeah. What about you, Greg? What did you think when he gets sucked he goes back to the future thinking, oh, yay, I've saved my family because we defeated these robots that killed them, and then immediately gets arrested by time cops.
I thought it worked really well. Again, I think the strength of this book is it's very popcorn-esque, summer blockbuster. Like, don't try and think too much. Where Black Science really does try to, like, and I feel like I keep comparing it to Black Science, but like that's where it was like try to make you really think. Where this is just like, just have fun, just go with it.
I mean, that's really what this book is about. Like, every page, Remender is just like upping the ante. He's throwing different situations at this guy. Like, don't think about it too hard. Just roll with what's happening, because there's a connective thread here. But really, it's just like, what kind of crazy situation can I put Heath in now, and let's see how he gets out of it. Right. And sometimes he's more effective than others at getting out of it. We get to see we see him thrown into prison in the next issue, and he basically realizes that the shrimp crab guy next to him is like doping, and he's like, oh, I want some. and then we flash back to the trial where he basically got sentenced, and we realize they pulled Mara out, so she's still alive. Mm-hmm. So they both got arrested because they went back in time and effed with time. It's like, it's not our fault. Like, we were trying to do this, and the fact that we went back was, we didn't go back on purpose and any of that. And, meanwhile, what he says is coming true, so they like go to set him free, but he's now a druggie and like his body is breaking down because he took alien drugs that are basically destroying him. What did you think?
And it's a clone body, so like the
clone
body's
body couldn't hold up to him. What did you think of all this?
again, wild, fun. Like you have that Han Solo moment where she's like, I got dragged into this. I was an accomplice. And then he goes, but then I really wanted to bone him. And he's like, I knew it.
Yeah, because he's having to tell the truth.
He's like, I knew it.
I believe the phrase she uses is monkey sex.
Yeah, wait,
Wild, yes.
I think that's right. Let me get to that.
It's wild monkey sex.
Yes. It's like, as for Heath, I despise so much about him, but I want to have wild monkey sex with him as well.
He's a scruffy nerf herder.
He's got his like hand behind his head, and he's like sitting there smug as all get out, and he's like, I knew it.
He's on trial for his life.
Yeah.
And he's kicked back.
And he keeps interrupting like the defender. He's just like, don't give me this booger, dude. Like,
yeah, the guy who's trying to defend him, he's like, he's as antagonistic to him as he is the people trying to convict him.
But I get the feeling Remender had some broader points to make in Black Science.
Yeah.
And I haven't read Deadly Class yet, so I don't know what he did there.
Oh, yeah,
but I think this one is just sheer storytelling.
This is just fun. He's just having a good time telling a fun story is what this is. This is very different than those two books are very different from each other, but they're way different. They're much closer to each other than this is to either of them.
Yeah.
So basically, and like if there's any details you guys want to dive into, we can. I'm just kind of flipping through this.
No, I think it's good.
And so basically they end up getting set free, but we see that the aliens that they were trying to beat, there's something more going on here because they're still following them, even though supposedly they've already gotten to Earth. They're still like following Heath. They're like using Heath for something. We open the next issue and we get a flashback to Heath with his family, with his dad, with his wife and his son, and basically we see the death of his father and his son, like in a flashback while he's trying to recover from these drugs that he took, that Mara's trying to save his life. And then we get the obligatory sex scene that we're building up to. And I love the whole thing. And she makes him cut his hair and everything. And like, he tries to give her this nice tender kiss. And she's like, that's not really how I saw this going. So she punches him to kick off their, So what did you think of their relationship here as they get to have the wild monkey sex that she was looking forward to? What did you think of this unreally?
Well, I love the fact that they're zooming past Saturn, apparently, as it happens.
Yes.
And then he has this weird, what is it, a vision? Where he can see Mara having some kind of confrontation.
Yeah, he sees something. Well, actually, before we go to that, let's go back to the scene with his dad and his son. What did you think of that, real quick, before we do?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved the whole setup, the whole shit kicker in the bar setup, and then they're going home, and he's just a good old boy sitting on the porch with his pappy. That explains a lot about who he is at heart.
Yeah. What did you, Greg? What did you think about the scene?
It's a classic Rick Remender rips a heart out, and just stomps on it because it's like, you're gonna make these. He puts these characters through just torturous situations. So you kind of have to go like, I get it. But that's where I did say, like, I thought at first the guy in the bar looked very much like Heath in the urinal.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wait, did he just kill Heath? Is this a clone? Well, I was like, are we doing this again? And then I looked, I was like, oh no, they just look very similar, same jawline. And so like, that's where I got confused. I spent a little bit too much time reading those pages trying to go, what is going on here? But again, I like it because I think it sets up, now we have our character's motivation. Why is he doing what he's doing? why, like, Unruly's point, why is he the way he is about, his personality, his dad is battling cancer and his dad's just like, whatever. Like, I'm like laid back very much like he was in the courtroom, right? Like, life on the line. And, and then his wife is, Heath's wife is getting mad at the dad because she's like, you're being selfish. And like, those are really raw moments, but you see then why our character is the way he is moving forward.
So then we get the scene, him and Mara finally get it on. And then when he wakes up after they do, there's like this vision from he's awake. So it's not like a dream, but he's getting like some sort of message almost from future Mara or something that we get where she's fighting these monsters and says, don't come down here. Like, this place is a death trap. And she's like, tells him she loves him. And then before the message ends, and he's like, what the heck? But she's behind him. And we see that they're arriving at Earth, but it appears they're too late because they can tell there's doesn't appear to be any humans down there or no human life on Earth left. What did you think of the vision and then just the setup of where we're going here, Unruly? You started to talk about the vision a minute ago before I cut you off.
Well, the vision we sort of get just a little bit more of a payoff on, I believe it's the last page of what we're reading.
Yeah.
But him going back to Earth and fighting is just one long action sequence.
Yes.
I've lost track of how many pages it is of just him fighting. And I love it. Thank God you brought enough to finish the job this time. He thinks he's going out, but that's not the first time that he's thought, he was going to his death.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gets saved by the fear agents.
Yeah.
I mean,
that whole chapter 9 is all just him fighting monsters until the last page where he gets saved by the fear agents. Because he's going to try to we find out that his wife was at least alive, and he's going to try to find her. There's a tracking thing. Why he goes down there when Mara's like, you're crazy to go down here. And yeah, he gets saved by the fear agents. What did you think of that sequence, Greg?
So much happened in issues 9 and 10 that make you go, okay, now this world is so expansive here. His wife is the president. Like,
yeah, we get to that.
Like he sees her picture as he's looking for the stuff that's hanging up. And I didn't catch it at first until I'm like, wait, I was like, oh, that's his wife. And, I think that's what I really am like appreciating about this of like, we're slowly getting enough. Like, I don't need the fear agents right now. I didn't need them earlier in the story. Yeah. I needed to spend time with Heath. And now I'm like, okay, add the fear agents. Let's expand this universe a little bit more. And I thought it was just really, it's been really well crafted.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we get the fear agents show up, and first thing Heath is like, what are you doing where you don't have the right to wear these uniforms? So they're not his fear agents, or at least they weren't, and, they basically come down and they seem to have a pretty good idea of what they're doing, despite his thoughts on the issue. I love the thing. When they blow up the one monster, they're like, minimum safe distance. They're like, Heath, get back. The minimum safe distance is 3 blocks. He's like, minimum safe distance from what? Yeah. Like, when the monster dissolves.
So good.
But yeah, we see he gets reunited with Charlotte. Only Charlotte's moved on to another man here as we get to the end of this. Not just is she president and leading this troop, she's moved on to another man. What did you think here, Unruly, when we meet the wife?
You know what? I don't remember if she had moved on before he took off on his little 10-year sojourn or not. I can't remember.
We don't get that information. Really.
If we find out, we don't know. We haven't read that yet.
The only flashback we get of her and him was the porch scene, and then she goes in. We don't get anything of how he deals with the process.
At least in these issues, we don't. I assume we probably get more later.
Yeah, I'm sure we do. But yeah, so not yet.
That's what I'm saying. I can't remember.
Okay. Yeah.
Even though I've read it before, I don't remember, so I'm up in the air about that. But
Yeah.
now you've mentioned a couple of times that she's president. Well, let's be fair. There's less than 20,000 humans left.
Yeah. There's not hardly anybody left.
That increases your odds a little bit.
Still impressive though.
Yeah. She's still clearly. And I love the scene where so he comes down the ramp, he sees her, but she runs into the arm of his rescuer, and they're what is it? We get I'm missing the scene where she's yelling at him, where Mara says the line basically, oh well, we're banging. It's
that was right away in the beginning of issue 10.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because it flashes back and forth here. Where's it at here? Why am I cannot find where I'm at. Okay.
It's right after he gets, or I guess it's right after he gets saved by the people, that scene you were talking about.
Yeah.
That's when she goes, we've been banging.
Yeah. Anyway.
We're way past the just friends stage.
Yeah, we're way past this. This is my friend Mara. And she's like, no. It's like, no, we're banging. Anyway, I can't find it at the moment, but that's not a big deal. But so yeah, they basically, all the humans that are left have moved to the moon base that clearly has some attachment to him when he was originally a fear agent. His wife has ditched him. Mara's pissed at him because he didn't tell her that, because he was immediately back and interested in his ex-wife or whatever. So yeah, she's pissed at him, but he ends up having a conversation with Charlotte, who's also I love he gives the whole thing. He's like, oh, it's you're just, a drunk and everything else. He's like, no, that's a crutch I left long left behind. And then the kid comes back here's the supplies you requested, Mr. Houston, and it's just a big tub of liquor. So yeah, he can't help himself. What did you think of his reuniting with his former bride here on Ruby? And his
incredibly funny scene. Come on, Dr. Pabst, I'm going to need your help to get through this.
Yeah. What about you, Greg? What do you think?
It was horribly uncomfortable. I don't like awkward moments and awkward things. That panel where he's he sees her and he's like, oh my goodness, and she's like, I missed you, and I'm like, oh no. You're you just feel it.
The other guy.
And you're like, and so that that's my own hangups. I can't do awkward situations. I'm just oh man, no. And but I thought it was well done because there's going to be such a good dynamic now of storytelling of what is their past, how did it go from, I'm assuming that we're gonna get that, how did it get from watching your kid and father-in-law blow up to becoming the president to figuring out why you don't care about your I'm assuming
why they're not together.
I'm assuming he lost himself in alcohol once he lost his dad and son, and she probably was get your act together kind of thing, and stop being in your I think that probably is that dynamic, but I'm just curious to see where it is. It has that tension a little bit of okay, we're expanding the story that has been very much episodic that we've talked about so much that now we're getting it's still episodic, but there's that underlying tissue there now that's going, okay, we're connected here
now. So this kind of wraps up. We get the whole scene. Heath ends up talking with the fear agents, and they're trying to figure out the next step, find a new homeworld for humans now that Earth is lost to the feeders to a certain degree. And they're talking about the feeder homeworld. And he's like, good luck with that. And we see he gets to the end. He's like, whiskey can't touch this pain,
Mm-hmm.
He's like, and just how horrible things are, that he's lost his wife. But in the end, he's like, it's good to be home. And then we get the scene that you talked about is the bad guys that we've been following all along that sent the feeders to Earth and everything else are communicating with Mara, basically. And she's like, so she's clearly made a deal with these people that we don't know what that is, that she's not exactly what we think she is. And
She's not on that up and up.
Yeah. So what did you think of this reveal, Unruly? Go ahead.
But which clone? There were clones of her. Was the
Of course there
vision?
were.
Was the
Naturally,
vision? The vision was out of the real Mara. You know what I'm saying? And this is a clone, or vice versa.
Well, I hadn't even thought about that. It was the one that they went back in time and saved. So, yeah. Supposedly, whether or not that was the original or not, I don't know. But
I love when he's on the bridge how he talks to his ex's new man. How's it going there, Madam First Lady?
So good.
And then when the dude tells him this is the feeder's homeworld, George and I nicknamed it Shitburg, and he goes, "You ladies cook that up post coitus." He's like, well, I'm not going to get into this petty shit with you. And he's, well, you're no fun.
Yeah.
But I love how this ended with the reveal that we don't know what this Mara is up to.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know what her motivations are and what she's up to. What about you, Greg? What did you think of this reveal here at the end?
Again, give me the intrigue. Like, okay, yeah. I want to know, like, maybe, I'm a hopeless romantic. Maybe that means there's going to be hope that he doesn't fall for Mara and he gets back with his wife, and who knows? Like, so I'm kind of like, you know what? Okay, Remender now has left some cracks in the relationship of it makes it more believable that there could be a, something else.
Yeah, we don't know where this is going to go.
You don't, and I like that, and I like my romantic fantasies. And so, as we were talking off air of our novels that I've been reading. And so give me a little bit of will they, won't they, some Archie, Betty, Veronica here. And let's make it. Let's make it happen.
Nice. All right. For me, I thought it was a great reveal that, again, it just helps. It continues what we've been seeing throughout the whole book, which is this, there's always something. It's just going to keep you on the edge of your seat, keep twisting, lots of twists and turns in this story arc. So I'm looking forward to reading more. What were your thoughts, Greg? What did you think of this? As the fellow noob to this story, what did you think of these first 10 issues? And does he got you? Are you hooked? Are you ready for more?
I'm hooked. I'm a lot less frustrated with this series as I was with Black Science, but I came around to that one, obviously. Yeah. And they are each of his series so far that we've been looking at, Deadly Class, Black Science, Fear Agent, there's notes of similarity, but they are very different through and through. And I appreciate that as a writer and as a storyteller. So I'm hooked. I want to read more.
Yeah. What about you, Unruly? On the reread here, did it live up to your memory of the first 10? And
very much so, man. Now I know why I loved it. Listen, so I just looked up, I bought a 9.8 back in 2018.
Yeah.
And there's very few on the census, and it's still worth nothing.
Yeah. Well, this is not, other than you, I never heard anybody talk about this story, which I think is a shame, because I've heard people talk about a lot of Remender stuff, and it's a lot of his very, deep, heavy themed, stuff that he's written, which is all great. I love Deadly Class. Love that story. I enjoyed Black Science, not nearly as much, but I really enjoyed it. But this is just so much, at least these first 10 issues, so much fun. It's just fun to read. There's depth here. Heath is a fun character. I mean, he's belligerent and an alcoholic and, but he's a lot of fun. He's a charismatic guy. You're rooting for him despite himself and all his flaws. And as someone who enjoys good sci-fi, like you said, we talked about at the beginning, this is great in the lines of Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon. Let's go into space. There's hot princesses. There's sexy ladies, crazy aliens, crazy violence. Let's go. And it's just jumping around. So I really dug it. I really enjoyed it. any other thoughts before we wrap this up and get out of here? Greg, you got anything else to add?
No, I think we nailed it. Again, a lot of fun. I think if you haven't read the series, this is one to hop into, check it out. Again, I'm only 10 issues in, but I'm hooked.
Yeah, and it's a quick read. It did not take very long to read these 10 issues. So, Unruly, got anything else to add before we wrap this up tonight?
No, sir. I'm ready for the next chapter in our thrilling RKO serial.
Yeah, there you go. Greg, you got anything coming up that you want to promote on your channel here?
Let's see. I drop interviews every Monday. So I just dropped my interview with Jeremy Adams, writer of Aquaman and Green Lantern. That was fun. This Monday, dropping my interview with Dave Hill, who's a musician, comedian, author, and he has a new book from Oni Press about a fake death metal band that he made up, and it's a real story, and it's a hoot. So it was a fun interview.
Nice. So that'll be Monday?
Yep.
Sweet. And really, I know you don't make content very much because of your schedule and everything else. You got anything you're planning to do, or are you just surviving work and doing this?
I got to get through the next 2.5 months, and then I'll be sane again.
Yeah. So, well, hopefully we're rooting for you, man. We're rooting for you to get this project wrapped up. I know it's been a long one and a tough one. Yes. So, all right, folks. Well, I will be back with my usual stuff on over the weekend. But until then, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thank you to Gore and Gordon and Lasso stopped in and Berdiazel.
The balloons are back, baby.
And before I forget, because I almost did again, I got to thank my members. So I appreciate the folks that are doing memberships for me, including Unruly, who's one of my members. Thanks to all my members for help me keep the channel going, taking care of the craziness that StreamYard has suddenly cost. So I appreciate it. So yeah, I want to shout out my members before I forgot, because I have done that on occasion since I started doing this. It's like, oh yeah, I have members now. I gotta remember. So with that, we're gonna get out of here. Thanks, folks, and we will catch you later. See ya.